Hi, this is Lisa from the Amplified Female Entrepreneur podcast. I decided to hire Adam because I knew I was being guided to create and launch a podcast, but I had zero clue where to start. The idea felt so overwhelming, especially since I'm not tech savvy and was honestly scared of the whole process. The best part about working with Adam is his energy. It's absolutely infectious. He made everything so simple and guided me through every step of the way. Thanks to him, I launched my podcast so much faster than I ever expected, and I now have sustainable game plan moving forward. I can't believe how easy he made it. Thank you, Adam, for making this journey so effortless and exciting. I couldn't have done it without you.
What's up, Pod Pals? It's your buddy Adam, and you're listening to Podcasting Business School. This is a show where I teach podcasters, content entrepreneurs, and online business owners how to answer these 4 questions. How do I optimize my podcast launch? How do I get my podcast past 1,000 downloads per episode? How do I convert more podcast listeners into paying clients? And how can I simplify my online business so it feels more easy, lucrative, and fun? And with today's episode, we're attacking question number 2, how do I get my podcast past 1,000 downloads per episode? And I'm going to unpack my podcast growth strategies, the specific tips, tactics, and strategies I have used to take 2 of my own shows past 500,000 downloads each. All right, we're going to dive deep on the strategies today. After you get done listening to this episode, if you're building momentum and you're like, hey, how do I put the pedal to the metal and build momentum a little bit faster? Make sure you hop on over to my website, podcastingbusiness.school. The link is in the show notes, and you can check out my coaching options. We can work together from a one-on-one standpoint, a group coaching option, or even a hybrid with a little bit of both to help you solve that problem a little bit faster. So podcast growth. This is a huge focus point for so many of you because podcasters won't keep podcasting if we don't see that ROI. We're putting a lot of effort into creating content, planning the content, getting the equipment. A lot of you are hiring editing teams and things like that, promoting on social media, spending time on this stuff. And if you're getting 4 downloads an episode and one of them is your mom and the other one is like your kid's phone, then this isn't a good result. You're not going to keep podcasting. So, some people are like, why you focus on 1,000 downloads per episode? Why is that such a big deal? Only 20% of us get that number. Only 20% of shows do 1,000 downloads per episode. So the fact that I've taken 2 different shows and 2 completely different niche topics past 500,000 downloads each is a big deal. And I'm really, really proud of that. There's a lot of podcast coaches out there that have, 100 downloads, and I've got 1.2 million. And that is something, again, I've worked very hard for. I have made all of the mistakes. I focus on teaching you how to avoid those mistakes. And today I'm going to show you just some different routes that I took to get past that 500,000 downloads mark for my health show, which was called the Million Pound Mission. And now this show, Podcasting Business School, which is obviously in the business and entrepreneurship niche. And I'm not saying this is the only way to do it. This way is right and everything else is wrong. I just want to give you examples that there are different kind of choose your own adventure paths. And then we'll sum it up with a few action steps to simplify this and say, okay, here's what I really think you should focus on. Okay. So the first show we're going to focus on, it was my health podcast. It was the first show that I launched in 2015. We have to factor in that there were 3 years of me kind of driving the podcast struggle bus through the podcasting wasteland of no download desert. 3 years of that to figure it all out. Obviously, you listen to the show. I help you skip all of that stuff. You don't have to do that. But we have to factor that in with my growth with this show. And when I eventually started to figure things out, my main growth strategy is my guest invite first strategy. So basically, I figured out that me sending an email or DMs to people on Instagram, hey, I'd be a great guest for your show, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't even working in 2018, let alone 2025 today. Like, it's a really low percentage strategy. So what I figured out is that I can invite people onto my show, make friends with them, create content together, and a high percentage of the time they invited me back on their show. So a value add first strategy. This was my main growth strategy for the Million Pound Mission podcast, which is focused on weight loss. And I did eventually add weight loss to the subtitles like Million Pound Mission Weight Loss Podcast, but that was really towards the end. And that show's still going. I sold it. Nate Palmer eventually became Low Carb Hustle. It's still going. I believe it's like 1.5 or 2 million downloads now. At the time that Nate took over, I was at 550,000 downloads or thereabouts. So eventually I was doing 3 episodes per week, which again, this is probably not a strategy I would recommend today because of how the Apple works, specifically with Apple Podcasts. If someone doesn't listen to, I believe it's 5 episodes in a row or 14 days in a row of not listening to episodes, then they stop getting notifications. So if you go on vacation for a couple of weeks, or your listeners go on vacation for a couple of weeks and don't listen to your episodes, you're doing 3 episodes per week, you're going to click through that 5 episodes pretty quickly. So I'm a big fan of 1 episode a week. That's what I'm currently doing. But back in the day, what was working for me, it was 3 episodes per week. I would do 1 solo episode, 1 coaching episode, and 1 guest interview. So this allowed me to have 50 plus guests on my show per year, which allowed me 50 opportunities to invite someone else that had a podcast. I figured this out early on too. Nobody got to sit in that seat unless they had a podcast, because I want to be a guest on podcasts. And this was my guesting strategy. All right. So I had 50 plus opportunities per year to invite somebody on my show, make friends, and hopefully get an invite back onto their show. So then what I figured out was like, hey, let's invite top ranked podcasters with this strategy. That makes even more sense, because now it's not somebody that's doing 17 downloads per episode. These people are ranked shows, so they have a more significant audience. All right. So this was more effective. So I would just scour my Apple top 200 charts. Spotify didn't even exist back then. And I would say, okay, let's start inviting these people, starting at the larger end, so that the 180s, the 190s, the closer to 200 in the rankings are easier to approach and get a hold of. I would invite them on my show. And a certain percentage would ask me to be back on their show. Then I started figuring out that if they didn't immediately invite me back onto their show, I had a lot of success with doing a follow-up Instagram live with them. So for example, I had one younger couple on the show that had a very large audience. They're in the ketogenic diet space, Keto for Normies podcast. I think it's still a very highly ranked show. And I invited them on the show. And then I said, hey, this episode's going to be live next week on Tuesday. I would love to do an Instagram live with you on Tuesday evening to do follow-up questions. We didn't get to all my questions today, so I'd love to ask you a few more, but also promote the episode. Because I figured out also, and this is still an issue today, where we spend effort creating assets for guests to share out, and they don't share any of them out. And I don't blame them. Like, they're not coming on our show to promote our show. They're coming on our show to teach our audience and also scoop up a certain percentage of our audience and make them their audience. And that's just a reality we have to face as a podcaster. All right. So we can't have our podcasting hearts broken when we invite somebody on the show, or somebody, especially somebody that's got a lot going on, large audience, and like they didn't take all the assets that we sent them and share them all out on their Instagram feed. We can't have our hearts broken when that does not happen. So I like this strategy a lot better, where I go, hey, episode goes live on Tuesday morning. Would love on Tuesday evening do a follow-up Instagram live. What do you think? And almost everybody was saying yes. And all these health people had giant Instagram followings. So this also helped me build my Instagram following. So I'd go live. We'd ask questions. When I had Matt and Mega on from Keto for Normies, we did the episode. It went live on Tuesday. We did the Instagram live on Tuesday evening. I got 300 new Instagram followers in 15 minutes of doing a follow-up, because of the way the Instagram algorithm works and the push notifications when you go live. So I was doing that like crazy. And then if I did both those things, it was almost an automatic that I would get an invite back onto their show. So then I took this networking strategy to another level, where I said, okay, I had somebody on my show. I went on their show. Then I started to look at what other podcasters they had on their show, or who they had been a guest on. And if any of those people were top 200 ranked, I would say, hey, I saw that you interviewed so-and-so from the blah, blah, blah podcast. I would love a warm introduction to them so that I can invite them on my show as well. I feel like they would be a great guest for me too. And this is how I started to leapfrog up into higher ranked podcasts. So I started in the 150s, 180s ranking rise as far as inviting other people on the show. And I started getting referrals and connected to people in the top 100, top 50, top 20. That keto podcast was a top 5 health podcast at the time. I think they were doing almost 100,000 downloads an episode. So that was major audience exposure. And I was kind of leapfrogging via referrals. And I was scooping up the audience. And at our high point, we were doing almost 30,000 downloads a month on that health podcast. We were getting ranked a lot. And so that was the main growth strategy, was that guesting. I would invite first, put in the work, build the relationships, get referrals, and get invites back into their show. And I was doing probably, I would say at least 10. I was a guest on at least 10 shows per month. That's probably on the low side on other people's podcasts, because I was starting to speak at events and things like that too. So I would get invited on other people's shows just because somebody heard me guest on someone else's show and they'd reach out and invite me to be on their show as well. So I was doing a ton of guesting, and that is how I grew past 500,000 downloads. I didn't do any paid ads, didn't have any organic discovery SEO going on with Million Pound Mission. So that was one path that I took. All right. But it was very guesting heavy and very interview based content heavy. And we know that if you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to convert listeners into clients, we need to have a balance with the amount of interviews that we're doing, because we don't just want to grow our audience, because we're not necessarily focused on just getting sponsorship. Or if you're my ideal listener avatar, we really like sponsorships would be like less than 1% of our monetization strategy. So for focusing on listener to client conversion, we have to consider our content balance. So for me, this strategy, to apply it to my current show, Podcasting Business School, that you were listening to, this wouldn't work, and it doesn't work. So I do something different with this show. But that is one strategy, how I got past 500,000 downloads with my health podcast. Let's talk about what we're doing with Podcasting Business School that kind of differs from that. So as of today, as of right now, before I hit the record button, we have 613,508 downloads of this show. Thank you to everybody that has done even one of those downloads. You're doing one right now. Thank you. Boom. Thanks, Pod Pals. We have gone a very different route of growth with this, and it also works. All right. So I think there are 4 main components now to the way that I'm growing this show. The main one is organic discovery. So with organic discovery, we focus on SEO with the name of the show, Podcasting Business School, the podcast host description, and the individual podcast episode titles. Those are our most powerful SEO tools. If you want a deeper dive on this whole organic discovery SEO strategy, check out episode number 560. Episode 560. I almost shouted out episode 800 and something there. Not there yet. Episode 560. That's a great one to link up with. And I think that you can get a lot out of that one. So organic discovery is really the main reason I've been able to hit 600 plus thousand downloads, because you all are searching things like podcasting tips, online business strategies, things like that. I'm showing up for these terms in the search bar on Apple and Spotify and YouTube. So I have my RSS feed connected audio wise to YouTube there. And you're searching those terms, you're finding my show, you're diving in, and we're binge listening. Okay. So organic discovery is huge. One of the huge benefits is that you set it up, and I didn't have to spend time guesting on someone else's show, inviting. It's much more efficient time wise, and it's free. All right. So this is a big deal. Next up, I have a podcast player app banner ad running at all times. Usually on Overcast FM. I really love that platform. Overcast.fm/ads. Go check that out if you've never run one. And I get new subscribers. A lot of you that are listening found me because of an Overcast FM banner ad. You were listening to a show, the banner popped up. Ooh, this looks interesting. Click, subscribe. Now you're here. Congrats. Nice to meet you. So, like last month, I think I Paid $300 and something for a banner ad in the education category, and 57 new subscribers. So it was like a $5 cost per acquisition. I'll do that all day, every day. If I'm doing less than $7 cost per acquisition on a banner ad for a new subscriber, basically what that means is I'm paying less than $7 for a new podcast subscriber. I'm very happy with that. All right. So that's the second component of how we're growing with Podcasting Business School. So last month, 57 new people subscribed to the show. And that's not 57 downloads, because I've got 500 and almost 600 episodes. So this is episode 589. And so if 57 people find the show, I mean, how many episodes are they binge listening to in a week? Most of you find the show and are like, I hammered through 5 episodes over the weekend. So that compounds, that multiplies into hundreds, if not thousands of downloads pretty quickly. All right. And I'm seeing that all those new listeners from last month, I'm seeing my downloads skyrocket now this month. I'm seeing that kind of catapult forward. All those new people are listening and binge listening, which is great. Shout out to you guys. Third thing, this is a slept upon component of growth: email list building. I've been way more focused on growing my email list and via my newsletter, my Podcasting Business School newsletter. And here's the thing. People are discovering my newsletter independently of my podcast. So it's getting recommended on Substack. It's I do run some Facebook and Instagram ads to my newsletter. So new people are discovering me that way. Just on social media, I do little promos for my newsletter topic, and people bounce onto my list, and they've never listened to my show before. But with my newsletter, I can promote my podcast, which I do a small percentage of that. I've got a very specific newsletter and podcast content strategy. And a lot of these newsletter subscribers turn into podcast listeners. Many, many, many. But here's also a fun fact. More people read my newsletter each week than listen to my show about podcasting. So, I find that very interesting. So email list building has really helped me grow my downloads. All right, so if you aren't doing that yet, that is definitely a problem I can help you solve. All right. The last part of my strategy is the strategic interview. So it's kind of like what we did with Million Pound Mission with the health podcast, but I only have maybe one guest per month. So with the health show, we had 50 plus opportunities to have somebody on the show and do the strategic invite, get an invite back, and I'm guest on lots and lots of shows. With this brand, expert positioning is so important to me. I'm doing one episode per week. I cannot do too many interviews because that takes away that expert positioning. That's the key to my listener to client conversion. The solo episodes like this and my coaching episodes. Content-wise, those are much more important to my business than interviews. But from the networking standpoint, doing strategic interviews, inviting people onto the show that I want to be connected to, that I would love to collaborate with, all right, I'm very strategic with that. That's why if any of you have ever reached out, been like, hey, I'd be a great guest for your show, and you pitch me on it, I'm 99.9% saying no, because I'm really, really picky, strategic with those 12 spots. There's only 12. I got to make them count. All right. Now, I still do a lot of guesting. A lot of you guys reach out to have me on your show, and I love doing that. I don't say no to anybody unless it's like, I'm not going to be a guest on a health show or something like that. Like, it's got to be a business or a marketing or a podcasting show or something that makes sense that's aligned with this brand. That's a great use of time. I don't care if you're doing 4 downloads. Just ask me and I'll come on your show. So I do a lot of guesting, but I've got those 12 arrows in my quiver that I have to be really strategic with which direction. I got to hit close to a bullseye with each arrow, with just the connections I'm trying to make. All right. So with Podcasting Business School, those are the 4 main ways that we're at 600 plus thousand downloads. The organic discovery has been huge. The paid banner ads has been huge. The newsletter and the email list building has been huge. And then we still leverage strategic interviews. Now, let's look at these 2 stories: the health growth, the business growth. Where's the through line? Because I know one of my goals with my content for you guys is to simplify things and go, okay, what do you actually need to pull out of this and say, here's the low-hanging fruit. Here's what I actually need to be focused on. So I think the two simple starting points would be organic discovery, get that dialed in first, because that works for everybody. It works across the board. It works for everybody. I'm starting a new one-on-one coaching client here today, and this is where we start. They have their primary goal, the primary problem that they want to solve is listener to client conversion. And I said, we need to fix your SEO and your organic discovery first, so that more of your ideal fit listeners are finding your show. That's the first part of listener to client conversion. All right. And again, episode 560 is a great place to start to get more information on my very specific strategy for organic discovery and SEO. It's a big deal. Don't skip past it. The interviews are sexy. It's like, yeah, it makes you feel good, right? To be on someone else's show. It's like, yes, I'm feeling heard. It's great, but organic discovery is a big deal. It is boring, but powerful. Do it. All right. So that's one component of, I think, a simple strategy to start with. The other one is the strategic interview. Like, I don't think, for the most part, like totally skipping and not doing any interviews is a great idea. Like doing at least a few and honing this part of your marketing skill set with strategic interviews. So inviting people that you want to be connected to from a collaboration standpoint, hoping that you eventually get to be a part of their platform as well. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. All right. They have to be able to deliver for your audience, but also the what's in it for me factor is there. That's just called being smart. That's strategic. All right. If you want to dive a little bit more into that strategy, I did a coaching episode with a couple of my group coaching clients in episode 587 just a few weeks ago. And you can hear me coach somebody through this strategy a little bit deeper, and you can kind of pull some notes from that. So I think if you just focus on a couple of things, because I know budget wise, banner ads aren't for everybody, because a lot of you are getting started, side hustling. That's all right. And then email list building, a lot of you are like, I can only do so much. So while I think those are two really, really effective strategies and two great focus points, I know that if you guys are just getting started and just getting some momentum built, if you can just focus on these two, organic discovery and strategic interviews, these don't cost money. All right. These are just focus and effort and time. We can all do that, and you'll see results. These two things will help you on your journey to get past that magical 1,000 download per episode, become a top 20% podcaster, and have more longevity, see the ROI, and keep going. All right. So hopefully we helped you build some momentum with solving this problem. Again, if you want to connect from a coaching standpoint, explore those opportunities, go to my website, podcastingbusiness.school, and we can look at different ways that we can link up and get you faster results. Pod Pals, that is it for this solo episode. I'm going to send you out into the world wishing you health, happiness, and many downloads. We'll see you on the next episode. If you need a little bit of help with your podcast launch, growth, or monetization strategy, head on over to my website, www.podcastingbusiness.school, and get signed up for a free podcast profit potential discovery call. During this free 20-minute discovery call session, I'm going to analyze your podcasting brand and tell you where I think you're missing on an opportunity for profits. Next, I'm going to tell you exactly what I suggest that you do as your next step. If I've got an offer that would help you accelerate the process, we can discuss working together as well. So head on over to my website, www.podcastingbusiness.school, and click on the Discovery Call button to schedule your free Podcast Profit Potential Discovery Call.